Normally these palettes fold backwards, but I just feel so bad doing this with this one. I don't know why. It feels like so new. That is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm so excited to be reviewing the new BPerfect Cosmetics Carnival The Antidote palette. I'm going to be doing 3 looks with this palette. That's how I normally do my palette reviews. That's just my standard way to get to know a lot of the shades in the palette and just get a really good feel for the palette so I could give a really in-depth review. I do have to say before I get into it that BPerfect Cosmetics I feel is very underrated, and I think they have one of the best formulas on the market, if not the best formula on the market, which is saying a lot coming from me. But with that being said, I still wanted to review this palette. I was just really intrigued by the color story. And yeah, if you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I do a ton of palette reviews just like this. Palettes are my favorite thing in the world. I don't know why I sounded so country. I'm Cuban, I promise. Anyway, let's get into this video. This is the palette. It's a standard cardboard packaging. This palette is actually made in PRC, which is the People's Republic of China, but it is PETA approved. I know that the cruelty-free laws are a little weird when it comes to things like this because China does require testing on animals or something of the sort. You know, I'm not really gonna get into it. I don't claim to be a cruelty-free channel. I try to be as cruelty-free as possible. It does have a 24-month shelf life. It says it contains 29 highly pigmented matte shades and 16 luxe creamy shimmers. Before I get into like all the details, I did create 3 looks like I said, and I tried to use as many shades in the palette as possible, but I have not applied every single shade on my eyeballs. I did, however, swatch every single shade, and upon swatching them, I can confirm that the mattes are very creamy. I do also own the Carnival 3 Tahiti and the XL Pro. Here we are. And the XL Pro is my most used palette. Just quickly look at this. I'm gonna do some comparisons at the end, but look at this, how much I use this palette. Like, look at this black. It's almost empty. Like, that's how much I use this palette. The mattes in here, however, are a little harder to the touch, to the feel, but they still blend out really nicely. That's, I feel like, what their formula is known for. They have these really hard mattes because they're almost like pressed pigments. They're like very pigmented. And the same goes for the Tahiti palette, which I haven't used as much as the XL Pro. The XL Pro is my go-to for body paint looks, very creative looks. I just dip into that palette with almost every single look that I do. The mattes swatch very smoothly. They feel to the touch very soft, so it's not the hard formula of mattes the other 2 palettes have. These are also very intensely pigmented, even though they're softer to the touch. Now, I will say with the shimmers, I wouldn't necessarily call them shimmers, except maybe 2 of them. This one's a little less intense. And was it this one? Yeah. They feel really like soft to the touch, but they are not that intense metallic feel, like crumbly type shimmer shades. I would have said that there are 3 different textures in here: the creamy mattes, the creamy shimmers, and then intense creamy metallics, because there are some metallics in here that are very intense on the eyes. I'll give you a spoiler alert. I really did enjoy the quality of this palette a lot. I enjoy the quality of this palette more than the Tahiti palette. I do think that a lot of people will get overwhelmed when looking at this palette, especially like the everyday makeup lover. They might look at this and think, wow, I don't know what to create because it's just so overwhelming. Stacey Marie did mention that she broke up the palette into 3 different sections. So we have the purpley pink like golds over here and the brighter colors, and then we have more of the neutral cool tone shades over here, and then we have the grungy green tones over here. And that's kind of the way I did, that is the way I did my looks for this video. I started with these neutral shades. I always like to create a very nice simple everyday look, and then I went to the more brighter colors, and then this is the 3rd look, obviously, so I use the greens. And I really think that that's gonna help a lot of people figure out how to create looks with this palette, because I know it can be overwhelming. I think that's everything I have to say about the palette. Let's get into the first look. Okay, so for this first look, I'm gonna stick to the middle 3 rows, the middle section. We're gonna keep it like a pretty neutral, simple, everyday look. So the first shade I'm gonna start off with is Pampas, which is this one right here. I'm gonna take it on a Rephr 27 brush. That's gonna go all over the crease. This will be my transition shade. I'm gonna keep it like a very simple look. It's blending out like a dream. I really like this shade. I think it's a really nice transition shade. I think it'll help blend out any shade we put in our crease. I actually don't think I have a shade like this in my collection, so yay. Impressed so far for sure. Next, I'm gonna go in with the shade Bonbon, which is like a dusty pink, which which is gorgeous. That's gonna go in the crease. I don't know how much this will deepen out anything, but let's just try it. Ooh, I love these two together. I think they're nice. Take a little bit more of Pampas. Make sure it's still peeking through. I love these two shades together. Wow. Those two colors blend gorgeously. I'm really impressed so far. I think I want to try Dusty Rose. I didn't even realize there was a shade called Dusty Rose and I called this one a Dusty Rose. This is more of a Dusty Rose. So I'm going to take that and try to deepen it out a little bit more. I don't know if I want to go too deep. I want this to be a really nice everyday look, but let's just see how this applies. I think I'm just gonna concentrate this in the outer corner. I don't want to deepen the crease too much. On the lids, I'm gonna take Dwindle. So this is like a champagne color. I'm gonna take it on a Refer 28 brush. Let's see how it goes without setting spray or anything. Usually I don't have issues with these shimmers at all. Yep, it's perfect. Oh my goodness. Wow. And I'm just gonna flip my brush over and take Cutie Pie, which is this one right here. It's more of a pink rose gold shade. I didn't want to make this look too monochromatic, so I was like, let me take like the gold or something. I might deepen out the outer corner just a little bit with one of the darker shades, just because I like to have that depth in my looks, even if it's an everyday look. I don't care. These shimmers though, they're so good. They're almost putty like. I love the BPerfect formula. I think it is one of the best on the market. You can almost see the indentation. That's how much like of a putty feeling it has, but that formula translates so pretty on the eyes. I love it so much. So I'm just gonna make sure these two shades are really nice and blended. I'm gonna take an Isom V31 brush. I'm gonna take Chestnut. To be honest, what I would deepen this out with is one of these over here, but I'm trying to stick to the actual like sections of the palette for the purposes of this video. I just think that it's easier for a lot of people to follow. Hopefully this is helpful in any way, but I'm gonna concentrate that shade in the outer part of my crease with the outer corner and bring it up to my crease just to create a little bit more depth. Yeah, that's better. Ooh, I just noticed a huge chunk of fallout right here. So I mean, I generally do my eyes first. I say this in every video, but for the purposes of these videos, I just like to have my base already done. But I definitely recommend just doing your eyes first. Anytime you use these mattes, they're very pigmented. It's almost like they're pressed pigments. They're like hard mattes, but they're still buttery and smooth to like the touch. I don't know how to explain it. This is such an interesting formula, like nothing like that on the market, I don't think. For the lower lash line though, I think I'm gonna go in with, I want to use a different shade, but I think I'm gonna go in with Chestnut just in the outer corner, and then I'll do a different shade for the inner part. Let's do Lotta Latte, which is a cool tone, like medium brown, and just blend that out. You know what, we'll blend a little bit of Dusk as well right under that, which is like a really nice transition, like a cool tone transition shade, just to use as many shades in the palette. This look may not be entirely cohesive because it's like not matching the top crease, but like, you know what, makeup has no rules, so I don't care. Then in the inner part of the lower lash line, let's take Elixir, which I was so impressed with when I swatched. It is a gorgeous cool toned metallic shade. I love these metallics. I'm just going to drag this a little bit over the middle and outer part, not all the way though, just like create a nice gradient there. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the shade Dove, which is like the matte cream bone colored shade on the brow bone, of course. And then I'm gonna take Oyster in the inner corner. This is like more of a pinky tone metallic. This reminds me of one of the shades in the Tahiti palette. I love that inner corner shade, so pretty. Okay, so this is the final look number 1. I'm so obsessed with the formula of this already. I love the colors in this row. I think this is a perfect everyday look, and I think you can create so many looks just within this section. You can create cool tone, pink, and you can mix and match. Like honestly, I love it. I love the way this look turned out. I'm excited to play more with the other shades, and let's get into look number 2. For the second look, I'm going to stick to these purpley kind of shades. Normally these palettes fold backwards, but I just feel so bad doing this with this one. I don't know why. It feels like so new. The first shade I think I'm going to take is Pretty Peachy. I'm going to take that on a Refer 27 brush. This is a nice fluffy brush in the crease and wing it out and all that. Gorgeous shade. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to do my white balance with the lights in the back now because it looks a little like weird every time I look at it, and I keep changing it, so just ignore that until I figure it out. But hopefully, I think that like they're coming out true to color, like the actual shades I'm using on my eyeballs. Hopefully it's translating right on camera. These mattes are so smooth and gorgeous. Lots of fallout though with this one. Good thing it's a light shade. Next, with a Refer 01 brush, I'm gonna go in with Spiced Coral. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what this shade looks like though. That's a stunning shade, to be honest. I'm excited to see how this applies on the eyeballs. Concentrating that in the outer corner, bringing it into the crease as well. Wow, that's bright. That's gorgeous. Obviously gonna take a little bit more of Pretty Peachy. I don't know why I was gonna say just peachy. Making sure that's still peeking through. These mattes blend so well together. I don't know what they do, what voodoo they do on this formula, but it is so good. Okay, and then to deepen it out further, oh, I don't know which one. I think I'm gonna take Sweet Cheeks, which is this like pink purple. That is gorgeous. So I'm packing this on the outer corner and bringing it into the crease. It's blending quite nicely, but some of that orange is getting lost, so I'm going to take a little bit more. Just make sure it's still peeking through. Oh yes, look at that. Gorgeous. I love it. Why am I whispering? And then on the lid, I'm gonna take Sugar Maple. There's a lot of like gold tones in here, so I had a hard time like deciding, but I think I'm gonna take Sugar Maple and then what's this one called? Pin Up. I always take 2 shades on the lid, you know? I love it. You don't even need a setting spray. They're very, very pigmented on their own. The only thing I will say is like to cut your crease if you really don't want it to get in the crease, which it sometimes does, but it doesn't really bother me a whole lot. Flipping my brush over and grabbing Pin Up. Ooh, this is a gorgeous like copper shade, like a burgundy copper. Ooh, I love it. Making sure those two are nice and blended. You know what? I'm gonna grab a little bit of aubergine. I don't know what that means. I should really look up these names before I start saying things. Just to deepen out the outer corner even more. I just like a bunch of depth, like I keep saying. Just concentrating that on the outer corner. On the lower lash line, I'm gonna start with Fall and I'm gonna like drag that across. That's gonna be like the lighter shade I use. Then I'm gonna deepen it out with Fuego, which is the purple. I'm so excited. I was hoping there would be like a couple purples, like fall purples in here. So I'm so glad they did that. I'm just dragging that on my lower lash line. And then in the inner corner, I'm gonna take Honey, which is a true gold, but let's see how it looks because there's really not another option for an inner corner. What I like to do with darker inner corners is like just barely tap it and it kind of like makes it a little more sheer. I think it looks really good. This is the final look. I'm really loving this side of the palette. I think it might be my favorite side of the palette, to be quite honest. It is such a fun purpley orange bright colors, like the bright fall colors, and I love this. I love this so much, and the quality in here is unmatched. Honestly, BPerfect formula is literally my favorite. I love it so much. But with that being said, I'm so excited to use the green, so that's what we're gonna do next. I'm so excited to get into these grungy green tones. I'm gonna start off with Buttercup, which is a very bright yellow shade. I think I'm gonna do a halo eye for this look. I feel like this yellow goes really well with the greens. I'm gonna take this in the outer corner, blend it toward the crease, and put some in the inner corner as well. And this is a Refer 27 brush. It's blending out so nicely. Next, I'm gonna take Sable, which is like a gorgeous like mossy green. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm gonna take that on a Refer 01 brush, and that's gonna go outer corner, inner corner, blend it into the crease. I might need to take a more precise brush. There's not that much fallout with these shades. There's a little bit, but it's not bad. So I'm gonna take first this brush without any additional product. The brush that I used for the yellow, I might need to add some more. These are a little more tricky to blend, I'm not gonna lie. You just gotta be really patient, but greens in general are very difficult to formulate, so I can understand. There's no additional product on this brush either. I'm just taking my time and blending out the outer edges. I did add a little bit more of Buttercup, the yellow shade, just to like help blend out the green, and oh my god, they are blending effortlessly. Okay, I wouldn't say effortlessly, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I did have to work a little bit harder to blend these shades than the other mattes in the palette, but that's generally the way it goes with greens. I'm gonna take Antidote, which is like the deepest green in the palette, and see how that goes. This is a Refer 14 brush. I like this brush because it's fluffy enough to blend out, but it's like tapered, so it's kind of precise at the same time. Ooh, okay, good. I was a little worried about this shade. I mean, it's swatched nicely, but like the deeper greens are obviously a little bit more difficult, but it's blending out nicely. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit more of Sable before it gets too carried away. Oh my god, look at that. That's gorgeous. This is such a stunning shade. It's deepening out everything so nicely. Highly impressed with the quality of these mattes. Actually had a little bit less of a hard time with this deeper matte than the mid-tone matte, but I think that's kind of understandable. I was trying to blend it with the yellow, which is kind of a different family of colors, you know? I'm just gonna grab the brush without any additional product and blend it toward the center of the crease. I don't want it to be too deep and dark in the center, but I do want some depth. Of course, I'm gonna add a little bit more of Sable. And then in the center of the lid, I'm gonna take Venom, which is another mossy like green. Ooh, look at that. gorgeous. Exactly what I want in a metallic. I'm just gonna blend that all over. I would definitely cut your crease if you don't want it to get like all up in your crease. If you have like a little bit of hooded eyes like I do. Obviously, I'm gonna take Antidote and just blend that toward the shimmer shade. On the lower lash line, I'm gonna start with Clover. That's like a bright forest green shade on a Rephr 03 brush. I'm gonna take this on the outer part. I'm gonna blend that out with Moss, which is like kind of a lime green, but like a grungy lime green, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm trying to use as many shades in the palette as possible. And the inner part of the lower lash line, I'm gonna take Silvery. This is a gorgeous shade. I like it. It's like mossy, but like silvery. Yeah, that's like a really great way to describe it. This would be a gorgeous inner corner highlight as well. And in the inner corner, I'm gonna take Glisten because I think this is a fantastic inner corner highlight. I'm gonna take whatever's left on my brush and just put it on my brow bone. This is the final third look. I have to say this one I think is my favorite. It's such a fun vibe. I had so much fun doing this look. Oh my gosh. I just love greens so much. I mean, I do love this side of the palette as well. Like I love the purpley, more bright tones, but the greens, they stole my heart. I thought I was gonna have a little bit more of a hard time. It's such a fun palette. In general, this might be a lot for the everyday consumer. You might get really overwhelmed, or you could feel like, I know some people feel like this could be the one palette you have in your collection because you can create like so many looks with this palette. I think the formula in here is fantastic. I know that a lot of people might be overwhelmed, like I said, but I do like that it can be divided into the 3 sections, and that might help ease your way of creating looks. With that being said, I'm so inspired by this palette. Even within the sections, I could see so many looks that I want to create with each section, but at the same time, I can't wait to mix and match and just see what I come up with. I felt very limited in these looks, but I did really enjoy every single look I created with this palette. I think the formula here is top notch. The mattes are super creamy and blendable. There's hardly any fallout. I really did not experience that much fallout with these greens, and I was a little surprised at that, I'm not gonna lie. And the shimmers are just so gorgeous. I would call them creamy metallic. I really do think that they're all high intensity pigmented metallic shades, not just normal shimmer. I did just want to compare a few shades to the Tahiti palette. When I see this palette, I think of fall too for some reason. Like I'm gonna do my top fall palettes, and I would say that this is a very nice fall palette as well. Even though like the packaging of it really screams summer, whatever, I just see these more as grungy tones. I mean, besides like the really bright purples and blues over here, I do think that the grungy greens, I just see that as like a really nice fall palette. Let's take some of the greens and compare them. The feeling of these are so different. I'm not gonna lie. Like these are hard mattes, whereas this is more buttery and smooth. The formula is quite different, but these are the 2 greens in the 2 palettes. This is from the newer palette, so they're a little different in tone. Like this one's definitely more grungy, more fall like. We'll also do Antidote, even though that has more of like a black undertone, like almost like a teal shade. Definitely quite different. Forest and Bamboo, these are from the Tahiti palette. And we'll compare those to what? Sable, Moss. They're very similar. Again, they're just like, they're gonna be a little more grungy. Like you can definitely create like more green looks with this palette. Those were not very good swatches. I apologize. There's quite a few neutrals in this palette. We'll do Clay. There's a shade called Pecan. I guess it's not really quite neutral. It's like a more purple shade. Like it has more of a purple undertone. Yeah, that's much darker. These are brighter colors, but again, like I there's some grunge in there that like totally reminds me of fall. This was a shade that I spoke of earlier that reminds me a little bit of a shade in the Tahiti palette. This is from the newer palette. This is Oyster. Reminds me a lot of Pearl from this palette. It just has like a bit of more of a pinky undertone. I'm running out of arm space here, but they are a little similar. Let's try Dusty Rose. There's Coral and there's Rum that look very similar. This is Coral and this is Rum. Yeah, Rum I guess looks a little bit more similar. Dusty Rose, Coral, Rum. Yeah, Rum is quite similar. There's no exact dupes or repeat shades in the older palettes. I would say the Tahiti palette is my least used though. I use the XL Pro. This is my most used palette in my collection, and I just quickly want to like open it and show you. I don't really think that there's a lot of like the same shades or like similar shades. I would say that these mattes are also a little bit harder. Every single matte that I swatched in the new palette is creamy. It doesn't feel hard to the touch. It feels very smooth. At the same time, it's very highly pigmented. The shimmers haven't changed formula. They're all very, very similar. Smooth to the touch, highly intensely pigmented. Let's just go ahead and take a look at these side by side, even though I know there's really not any repeat shades whatsoever. BPerfect, I feel like, is really underrated. Their formulas are fantastic. I think I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this palette. If you like this color story, this is definitely a great palette for you. I think that I like the quality of this one more than the Tahiti palette, even though I like the color story a little bit more in the Tahiti palette. I just go for the bright shades. I just do. But this is the perfect fall palette, and fall is coming up, so I highly recommend it. But yeah, that completes this video. Let me know which look of mine was your favorite, and also let me know if you're gonna be picking up this palette. I would love to know. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had so much fun creating this video. I love this palette so much. I cannot recommend it enough. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out so, so much. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Sorry. Okay, and then in the center of the lid, I'm gonna take... Okay, and then in the center of the lip, I'm gonna... What? I would say that look at my hands. Oh my gosh, everything is so full of swatches and they're just like not coming off me now.